where those who perceive truth may strive to make others see.
A big, powerful America, and shoot them for what?
On that continent, we are trying to forge a new identity for which we need each other.
I want you to imagine you work as a farmhand and suddenly you're kidnapped. You don't know why, but you wake up in a cell and you're tortured. You're asked about a series of events that you really don't know about, and eventually, after 15 years, you're let go. So today, I really think I was inspired by this Audible original, Letters from Guantanamo, and this is really taken from someone who was a victim of Guantanamo Bay in terms of really what's taken place there and really what happened there. Now, this person was 18 years old. He's a farmer, and he was kidnapped by Afghan militia and sold to the U.S. for bounty money. After about 15 years, of course, he was dropped. Charges were dropped, but over the course of this time, he goes from this, an angry teenager to really to this really enlightened figure. In terms of really Guantanamo Bay, I think it's important to note that before, it does have a history before 2002, before the events of 9/11, and this is there's a strategic. It's in Costa Rica, and it has roots in the Cold War era, but really it started with really ending the Anglo-Spanish War of some kind, or the Anglo-Spangler War. But basically, this was important in terms of its placement for various reasons. During, after the 9/11 attacks, they brought in a whole bunch of prisoners to this particular base, and it's important because this base was it was more than it was strategic in terms of the ability, to get around a lot of laws that pertain to Americans in terms of its placement, right? In terms of and that war that I was talking about, the Spanish-American War, was really after it came up in 1905 after the Spanish-American War. Just a note, but in terms of this placement, they were able to get around a whole bunch of legal law, a whole bunch of complications. When it comes down to torturing anyone, what they were able to do, it was a very important placement, and in terms of really, nowadays it's still, Guantanamo Bay is still open, and there's a case for what it does economically with, in terms of the surrounding location, and it made me think about, like, really why there's so many prisoners and a case being made of it hiring guard, or the ability to hire and keep guards hired, being kind of being literally, this is a formal excuse for the private, or for the for the prison complex to really keep guards hired. It seems as like this detention camp is, there's a case being made that this place, this camp period, this base is doing good for the surrounding area. And that's really, in terms of creating incentive for, various entities when it comes down to the bounty for our figure in that wrote these letters. I'm in terms of fear leading to irrational action. This is point in case here. When it came down to this guy, Gaddafi, he was kidnapped and brought to this place, but he noticed with the guards, his language struck. They were afraid of his language. People who were bigger than him in stature and had no reason to fear him whatsoever, they were afraid of his language. So, I think, I think, me personally, I think we're not being told the truth behind a lot of 9/11 and what took place. But regardless, this guy was able to strike fear by communicating with anyone, right? Communicating his language, and that was it was so powerful to know, to really hear about him speaking and him communicating with anyone and inspiring fear by doing just that. Another thing that was pretty striking was like his how dangerous men become when they have no shame. How dangerous men are with how it is really looking at this element of what they were able to do. It was really like, in terms of them in general, like he made a lot of officials and people look like fools in terms of his captors. And they kept, like, the idea was maybe if we torture them enough, then their story will change. And at some point they grew tired of this, and it became something. Let's make them really, really look stupid. I think they had there was some guy in the camp who was giving them a lot of information. He was like known to be like affiliated with he met Saddam, or he was trying to get into Saddam, and he gave them a lot of information, and he got like a lot of privileges as a result. And it was so crazy because like at some point he tells them, he says like, hey, look, I know XYZ, and he tells them all this, and he leads like investigators on for a while, and it's so I mean, it's just like these guys don't like these guys obviously didn't know anything, 10 years ago. Maybe they'll know something now. And he was, at some point he tells the investigators and he gets beat or whatever. But really, really, it struck out in terms of this idea of no shame. You recall he like they would openly insult these people in terms of their, the bosses who were like in charge of a lot. Like it was just, it was insults, but it was really like behind the frame of, that I've done nothing wrong, and you continue to do this. These people wore badges, these people wore all types of things, and it's scary to think that officials were able to literally be criminals in these cases, and it's definitely worth listen, and I'd really like for you to listen. But the element of fear and what it these officials, at some point in time, I think they realized how foolish they were. But while they were doing this element of, a country afraid created criminals out of people with badges, and it's really something like really striking to me to see someone speak the language, inspire fear, and insult these people on the grounds of you really have no grounds to hold me, but you're holding me, and you're able to do these things, or you're doing these things to me because essentially you have you're criminals at this point, and you are acting in some official quote unquote capacity to make this happen. But the element of prayer came into this a lot, in terms of how he he kept praying to really alleviate a lot of the distress. And it didn't it didn't matter what was said, it didn't matter what was going on. The idea was we created criminals with badges by through this element of fear. Now, at some point he starts he like at some point like he like the they justified holding them because of the anger of the people being illegally held. And that is like they weren't saints all the way through. That's why we're criminalizing. It was like really ridiculous, and I think they should feel like a lot of people who like. I hope that a lot of officers that were involved in this, in these essentially kidnappings and tortures, illegal kidnappings and tortures of people, like they need to feel that there's an afterlife. You understand? Like, you don't hold someone like that and get away, and or get to any capacity, regardless of whether it is official or unofficial, and have nothing, and do not answer for things like that. Um, and at some point, he gains comfort in writing. Of course, prayer, writing. You know, he was known as kind of a really good writer, and in terms of the lesson that a lot of people, the lessons, it really boils down to like his torturers were criminals with badges that we created through a country afraid. And Guantanamo Bay, like I said, remains open. And out of these, like, I think they only had 13 like people who were like really even. I think they were like it was some ridiculous percent of people who are actually like even guilty of anything. And to think that there was incentive to send, to kidnap anyone and send them to the U.S. regardless of whatever capacity you're acting in. Like, that's pretty. I think it's I really, it reminds me of, really the element of, why we need to repair, or what we need to repair in this country. And a lot of this is, I think, he's really, he talks about like a lot of political pressure in terms of like the Obama and Hillary, and the fact that a black man or a woman being president in terms of their effect. I do I don't necessarily agree with the identity aspect of really a lot of this stuff in terms of with the focus on politics and a lot of things. But one thing is for sure is I wasn't in his position, and I'll never be, and I'll hope, and when it comes down to his real experience, he's experienced that when a woman's in charge, people are more or there's things are easier for prisoners than when a man's in charge. And when it comes down to, I think a lot of I think when it came down to like being treated kinder by Puerto Ricans or black people, it was real, for him, for this element of what he was able to directly see. I think there is a validity that we need to acknowledge in terms of like the power structures and really what it power structures that be in terms of addressing these things in a real way. I think we really need to address a lot. And when we talk about repairing repairing society or the way things are now, I think it does need to be a real conversation of the experiences that Gaddafi had while he was in this prison, but also like the element of what do we do when a prison is like, or when a base is becomes economically favorable to whatever, what do we do there? How do we transform this place? in terms of military bases and what they do, what they can do, what they're for. I think we really need to think about like alternatives for a lot of these places and figure out things. But other than that, we'll go ahead and terminate it here. When it comes to now, please like and subscribe for more, and hope to see you soon. Thank you.